Yes, hello everyone. Welcome to another video. So we have a very special guest with us today. That is an ex-Muslim. I'm instructed not to share any of his details. So we will get to know why such an instruction is being given, and that's the main point of today's video. So the name that you might have seen already here is Apostate Aladdin. So we have an Aladdin with us, and also his Apu, the cat is also with him. He might show up during our show. So എല്ലാവർക്കും നമസ്കാരം ഒരിക്കൽ കൂടി. പല ആളുകളും ചോദിക്കാറുണ്ട് ഇടയ്ക്ക് ഇംഗ്ലീഷിൽ വീഡിയോ ചെയ്തുകൂടെ എന്നുള്ളതൊക്കെ. സോ അറിയാലോ, നമ്മൾ ജീവിക്കുന്നത് കേരളത്തിലായതുകൊണ്ട് നമ്മൾ പറയുന്ന വിഷയങ്ങൾ കൂടുതലും കേരളത്തിലേക്ക് ചേർന്ന് നിൽക്കുന്ന വിഷയങ്ങളായതുകൊണ്ടാണ് നമ്മൾ കൂടുതലും മലയാളത്തിൽ ചെയ്യുന്നത്. എന്നാൽ ഇതുപോലെ ഉള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളുമായിട്ട് ഇടയ്ക്ക് വരാൻ തന്നെയാണ് ഇനി രണ്ടും കൽപ്പിച്ച് തീരുമാനിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നത്. സോ അതിന് എൻകറേജ് ചെയ്ത എല്ലാ ആളുകൾക്കും ഒരു ബിഗ് താങ്ക്സ് ഫോർ ദാറ്റ്. സോ ഇനി അധികം സമയം കളയുന്നില്ല, നേരെ ഐ എം ഹെഡിങ് ടു മൈ ഗസ്റ്റ് ഹിയർ, അവർ ഗസ്റ്റ് ഹിയർ. സോ വെൽക്കം Aladdin.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be
Yeah.
here.
Okay, welcome. So that was so nice of you for accepting our invitation in a so quick way that you did that. So then only I remember that the video from where I caught you was an interview with Infidel Noodle, right? That's the name. So I watched that accidentally, and that's how I came in touch with your videos and all. So anyway, that was a very good show over there. So I hope we can do the same, or we can repeat such a good session today, going through your life and discuss, and you can share various things about your life as an ex-Muslim, how you became an ex-Muslim, and above all, the very first question that I have to ask you is that we are not having any kind of any warnings regarding this COVID-19 anymore. We are safe from COVID. We are not fearing any other new diseases where we have to wear this mask, but still you are wearing one. So what is the reason? Can you please explain to us why you have to wear that mask always?
Sure. So I think back to the very beginning of my journey on YouTube, when even before I became a YouTuber, the reason I got connected to this community is because I was trying to prevent another YouTuber from being doxxed, their personal information being shared. That person is Abdullah Samir from Friendly Ex-Muslim is his YouTube channel name. And if that isn't enough, his channel name is Friendly Ex-Muslim, and generally people think that he has a friendly demeanor. He's not a very hostile person, and even that person, people wanted to harm him by spreading his information online so that someone can get to him. And I thought to myself, even if I try to be as friendly as I could be, there is something that I will say or do that will upset some believers out there. And there is a lot of precedent for them trying to harm critics of the religion. So I wanted to be safe for myself and for my loved ones, for my family and friends, and not put out any information that would identify me. Because even if we're not in the Middle East, I'm not in the Middle East anymore, even then there are ways to harm someone who speaks about Islam in a way that Muslims don't like. So I just wanted to be safe. And I've received a lot of threats over the years, but thankfully none of them have been substantial, because I've done a good job of hiding my identity.
Okay, so I know the reasons why this Islamists or the Muslims. Are you telling that? Is it the extremists or the Muslims in general that is threatening you?
I think it's generally the extremists. However, I think even some what we would think of as moderate Muslims might revel in, or might be happy to see me being harmed, or they have this idea of a critic of Islam that they must be a bad person, they must have bad intentions, they must be paid by some agency or another. So they might even participate, they might share the same information, like retweet something. So it's not just the extremists that I'm worried about. It's not just the person who might want to physically harm me. There's a lot of people all over the religious spectrum that might not think twice. They might not intend so much harm, but they might think that it is justified. So they might still harm me one way or another.
So it's not just that the extremists are the problematic. Even the moderates can be problematic at times, right?
Yeah, as I'm sure you're
As
familiar with,
yeah.
whenever there's some kind of not just in-person mobs, but online mobs, you see a
Okay.
lot of momentum moving, behind a hashtag to bring someone to justice, and it's sometimes a blasphemer or a critic or something of the sort. So, unfortunately, sometimes it's a movement that a lot of people participate in, not just the extremists.
Okay, so I think this would be an eye-opening statement that's made by you, because in our place we always have a conflict between the people like the politicians and the normal people, where they always consider that we have Islam is always facing some issue, so we need to protect Islam, and the Muslims are always the victims. So since they are always chased down, they are always the victims, so we need not assert on some of the issues that they create. So that's the way how they indirectly support their extremist activities. So do you have anything to say to such people who promotes indirectly this kind of violence?
Uh, I think it might be tempting. I mean, I'm speaking from my experience in. I'm not going to disclose where I am, but outside the Middle East, sometimes Islam and Muslims are seen as a minority that needs to be protected from hatred, from bigotry, and so on. And that can be the case. There are situations where people are discriminated against just because they are Muslim. However, that doesn't mean that they the whole religion should be protected from scrutiny, or that any person who scrutinizes the religion or the actions of its followers is participating in hatred. I would hope that they would have a bit more nuance in determining what is hateful and what isn't. For example, when they use the word Islamophobia, I don't like that word, because there's no equivalent for Islamophobia for Christianity, for example. If someone comes out here and says, I hate what the church is doing, or I hate Christianity because so and so, or even without the word hate, if they criticize the religion, no one's going to accuse them of being a hateful person. But the moment you talk about Islam in a negative light, you might be lumped in with a lot of people who are indeed hateful. And yeah, and when only our voices are only amplified by hateful people, it doesn't give us a lot of good support. So if someone actually cares about victims, they should listen to both sides.
Yeah. So listening to both sides means it's a rational activity, and I don't think such a call wouldn't reach the ears of these believers. It's not just about the Muslims, but you take any kind of believers. Even you can talk to any of these proponents of this alternative medicine. Even they won't listen to the opposing views, because they are always led by the indoctrined versions of the things that they are taught from their childhood, from their collegehood, and such areas. So that's not very easy always. Anyway, that's a very valid point. Maybe the believers can take a note of all these things, and I think this will make it clear the whole point of this discourse, like why a person have to say I'm an ex-Muslim. Like I have written here, a proud ex-Muslim, and this emu is that's an abusive word that was introduced by the Islamists here, or as you said, maybe even the moderates who support them, to abuse the ex-Muslims, like using that word. So it's not going to work anymore. Okay, now coming to another aspect, you were mentioning about the Middle East. I'm not digging deeper into the place or your other whereabouts, but I just wanted to know how your childhood was, and what is your connection with Middle East?
So I grew up in Saudi Arabia. I tell people that openly, but I'm not Saudi. But I grew up there, and I had a moderate religious upbringing. I mean, moderate by Middle Eastern standards. I didn't realize there was a world outside of the world that I lived in. I mean, of course, I knew about other countries. I watched movies sometimes, but it didn't really sink in that there are people who exist, who believe differently, who aren't doing it for evil reasons or because they're stubborn or whatever justification I was given as a Muslim. So my worldview was still very narrow at the time, and I always felt from a very young age that there's something wrong, something doesn't make sense. But I questioned myself instead of questioning the religion, because there was no room at all in questioning the religion. It wasn't even a possibility in my mind that everyone in Saudi Arabia is wrong and I'm the only one who is right. That's how I thought of it at the time. So it definitely influenced the way that I thought for a while, and it was many years after, especially after I left the region, that's when I was able to deconstruct my religious upbringing and my beliefs, and it's an ongoing process to this very day.
Okay, so when you look back to your childhood and the things that you might be hearing today from this Middle East that is coming out, especially the kind of reformative actions that is being carried out by this present Prince MBS. So do you have anything to comment over that?
I don't know what the motivations behind the Reformation are. I don't want to speculate. I hope that the effects of it are good for the people, no matter what the motivation actually is. But the Saudi Arabia that I'm seeing today in the media is very different than the one that I grew up in. And I hope that's for the better.
Okay, could you please just give us a time frame to get an understanding of that period when you were living there? Need not say the exact date, but a time period.
So from the late
Okay,
90s to like the early or to the early 2010s. That's where when I was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we put it into some simpler terms, it is BD and AD. That's how I call BD. BD means before driving license was awarded to the ladies in Saudi Arabia, and AD means after the driving license. So you were living there before the driving license was given.
It was
right?
all before the driving license. Yeah.
Okay. So
actually, funny thing about that is, so when I went to visit my home country from Saudi Arabia, I was surprised to see women driving, and I asked my family, how come women are allowed to drive here? So because of my upbringing in Saudi Arabia, I assumed that women could not drive or were not capable of driving or shouldn't drive anywhere in the world. So it's funny to think about how my child mind was conditioned to think that something is normal when it wasn't. And I was told then that no, only Saudi Arabia doesn't allow women to drive. There's nothing actually haram or wrong about women driving inherently.
Yeah. So since you left the Middle East and you started your life in a place away from that, have you ever experienced a way in which the same kind of Islamic principles or that rules being imposed upon you, just like the way it was in the Middle East? At least once.
I don't think so. I mean, there's social rules, there's norms and cultural habits that I had to learn or understand, but I don't think they were enforced in any way. Where I'm at, people are very accepting to a large degree. Of course, there are always exceptions, but people are very accommodating, and it didn't take me too long to understand how those people behaved, and I didn't change everything about how I lived or thought, but it was easy to live among them.
Yeah, I asked that question because you were mentioning about your astonishment on seeing the women driving, right? So I can correlate that same feeling when I saw a woman driving a car or a bike in my childhood in the country or in the place where I'm living today. So I would say it was nothing related to the religion or any kind of any diktats, that is, we call it, what do you say, the Sharia kind of, or the fatwa kind of things. It was nothing like that. But still, the women over here in our country was not coming forward and doing all these activities that some men used to do. But after some time, things started changing, especially after more and more exposure to the Western culture, and the metro cities getting bigger and bigger, and they slowly these kind of activities or these actions started flowing into the rural areas as well. So I was living in a rural area. So, but still, even then, we can see, I would say that why these women were not doing all this, because that's part of their upbringing. Like, they were constantly educated or made to believe that, okay, you are not supposed to do that. And for that, every religion used their own principles or their own rules to impose such faulty ideals into their brain, thinking that they are, though they had these wings to fly, they were made to believe that they are wingless and they wouldn't be able to fly. So that's what I would say. But still, now we can see some of the women always saying that, no, women, we shouldn't do that. It's all about the men's duty, like that. So they just internalize these kind of regressive things. So I was just trying to correlate that to the events that was happening here. And one other thing.
So you're saying that Muslims and Hindus and people of other religions would justify why women shouldn't do these things based on their religion?
Even the women used to do that. That is a kind of internalizing that attitude. So now that is getting lesser and lesser. Now they are getting more and more informed about their own rights and their own equality. That sense of equality is now growing more and more. And I think that itself is one reason why this religion is getting trashed in our society slowly. Even if it is happening, it is very slowly that is happening. So that's it. So I also would like to add that I asked you this, have you ever experienced a kind of religious imposition that is happening in your life? I would say that I have seen it in India, that is happening. Here we have an organization called Samasta, okay, we call them. Samasta is, to make it easy for you, I would call them as the Indian version or the Kerala version of Taliban. That's how we can explain them. Now you would get an idea. So they will even stop these girls from entering onto the stage where they are exposed. They are stopped from removing their hijab, or they will keep on imposing hijab and all such sort of things that we hear about in Afghanistan, in Iran, or such Islamic countries. So that's how they always do all these things. So I was just trying to make a correlation. So yeah, so moving forward, do you have anything to add here?
No, not in particular, no.
Okay, yeah. So now coming to your the place where you are living now, I'm not asking where it is, but still, I'm just asking you. You might have seen how this Islamic extremism is causing problems in every country, and even destabilizing the political arena in the international perspective. That's what we are seeing today. Like, the emergence of the right wing is the biggest change or the biggest event that is happening today. So with regards to the place where you are living, is there any kind of such a move where you have witnessed such an emergence of this right wing just because of this Islam and Islamic terrorism and the roles played by them?
Where I live, I mean, there's these sentiments do exist, but thankfully it's not as big of a threat as it is, or as big of a force as it is in other parts of the world. I have seen, however, ironically, right-wing Christians and Muslims unite in their hatred of certain groups, like in their hatred of LGBT people. I've seen that in where I live, and that is unfortunately very upsetting. So I'm not sure which is worse, if there's a rise in right-wing nationalism and hatred of Muslims, or Muslims uniting with those people in hatred of other people. I don't know which one's better, which one's worse. They both suck, but I've seen both of them.
Okay. I'm seeing a comment where you have also responded to that. So, do you have anything to add to that comment that I can just show it here if you are
Oh yeah,
okay?
yeah. I wasn't
Apostate
sure if
Aladdin.
that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Apostate Aladdin and people like him are awarded a whole surah of Quran named after them. Surah Al Munafiqun. Okay. So, what do you have to say to such people who still think that you are a munafiq?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that comment is a joke or not, but if they mean it seriously, so a munafiq is someone who's pretending to be Muslim, and if I understand correctly, during the time of the Prophet, people did that for personal gain, or maybe to evade, persecution by the Muslims. They just pretend to be one of them because what's their other choice? Maybe pay jizya, maybe even worse, humiliation. I don't know what their motivations were, but um, so I don't know if the implication here is that I am gaining something by pretending to be Muslim or that I am pretending to be Muslim. Thankfully, I don't pretend to be Muslim anymore. But those who do, who are ex-Muslims and pretend to be Muslims, it's not for personal gain. It's so that they can survive. So I don't think it's even what the surah was intended for. The surah was, I believe, intended for those who hope to gain from the Muslim conquests and armies and stuff and pretend to be one of them.
Yeah. Um, in fact, I can add two things at this point to that question or that comment made by them. One thing is that he's unaware of what a munafiq is. Okay, because we openly say, even you are saying that I'm an apostate, even your name is an apostate. So apostasy means it is a murtad. So a munafiq is something entirely different from what a murtad is. So that basic difference is not taken into consideration here. So that is one mistake that is mentioned here. And the second thing is, even if you ask why this title was put here, that is why mask, okay, just because of one thing, that is, we have a rule in Islam, that is, if you leave Islam, kill them. That is the rule. So kill the apostate policy of this Islam itself is the reason why you are forced to wear your a mask, or you are forced to hide your whereabouts. Even you are forced to use a fake name and many other things. So until and unless a person is confident enough of securing his life, there's no point in doing all these things. So that's only matter why. Even I was using a fake name during my early years, and it was XM Prophet, that is ex-Muslim Prophet, that was my name. So I used to write in my local language regarding multiple subjects, and I was not able to do these videos those days, and even we didn't have such a good internet in that time. So these are the two things, and I think you might be aware of one person from Egypt who openly admitted that if there was no rule of executing these apostates of the way we see it in Islam, Islam wouldn't exist today. This is what the statement was. So it was an Egyptian cleric who openly admitted. Have you seen that?
I have seen that clip, yeah.
Yeah. So
I do have something to say about that, by the way.
Yeah, you can. Please go on.
Sometimes people focus too much on just the death penalty for apostasy. And I see Muslims arguing against this by saying, well, show me the numbers. How many ex-Muslims were killed recently in these countries? Aside from the fact that sometimes it's hard to find data like that, I don't think the main issue is just that you will be executed. There's a lot of harm that can befall you without being executed. There's and it's not always recorded what these numbers are. Like you mentioned Egypt, for example, what that cleric said, it might have been more applicable throughout history. Now, I don't think it's just the death penalty that's stopping people. I think it's the way that society reacts to someone leaving religion. And for example, you mentioned Egypt here. There's a very popular Egyptian ex-Muslim YouTuber called Sharif Jabir, and he faced legal issues because of his dissent against Islam. So he doesn't have to die to face issues. He could be locked up in prison, which he was, and many others like him. They could face a lot of harm and coercion and maybe torture without death being the only thing. So sometimes people tend to focus too much on the death penalty. Even though sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't happen, the fact that it exists in the laws at all informs how people behave and view ex-Muslims, and that's the problem.
Okay. So, the place where you live, do you have a community or a group of people of same kind of like ex-Muslim groups or anything, and do you involve physically there?
Unfortunately, I couldn't find any in my area, but I started my own online, and hopefully if it grows large enough and if enough people live in the same area, find each other through that community, they can meet up and it's still on a small scale compared to having a large community. But my dream is that someday we would have maybe even religiously tax exempt temples or churches for ex-Muslims and for people who have left any religion, to have a community there and actually meet each other in person. But of course, I worry a little bit about the safety of such an arrangement.
Yeah, I have a question here. I think that can correlate with what we are discussing here. Is ex-Muslim movement growing in Kerala? Yes, it is growing. And if you ask me the magnitude of that growth, I would say that the rough estimate that we have made is that you will find two ex-Muslims, or we call this emus, two emus in every Muslim homes in Kerala. That is the rough estimate that you can find here. So if you put that into actual numbers, it can go close to 2 million ex-Muslims in Kerala right now. So we are planning for a physical survey technique, a sampling survey. That's what we are planning here on behalf of the organization that I'm representing, that is the non-religious citizens, and we will come with actual numbers. So that is in the pipeline. So just letting you know that. Okay. So moving on.
By the way, similar question to you. Have you had meetups where you are in Kerala?
Definitely. It's not just ex-Muslim meetups that we have. We even have atheist movement or events like that. And the biggest atheist movement that happens in the world is in our place, and that is called the Litmus event. So last year and the year before, we had almost 10,000 people attending on a single day in a single area. So that's how big that event is. So we also have ex-Muslim events specifically for ex-Muslims. And we last year and the year ago, we had a press conference citing all the works that we were doing and the future plans and all. So that's how we do the things here. So yeah, in our place, it is a little more easier and open to do all these things. So we have that. Yeah. Any more questions to me? Yeah.
Yeah, actually a follow-up question about that.
Okay.
So I don't typically think of myself as an atheist very much, because it's not my position on God that I care about as much. It's my position on religion in general, and specifically the religion that I'm familiar with. And I can imagine that if it was easy and not an issue to become an ex-Muslim, and if Islam was a lot more permissive than it is now, I wouldn't even need to be doing what I'm currently doing. And then at that point, I don't think I would be as interested in pursuing an atheist community necessarily. So I'm curious, what kind of topics are discussed in these atheist meetups, and do they ever talk about the meaning of life, or where to find meaning after religion, and so on?
The atheism, the concept of atheism that we discuss here, or the cornerstone of the discussions here, is not just about the God or the existence of God or anything like that. It's all about the importance and relevance of the evidence and the scientific basis that we are all talking about. So denying a God, an existence of God, is directly proportional to denying something just because it is not having any evidence, including God. That is the position that we are taking. So we identify ourselves as atheists not just because we are not believing in any God, because we deny anything and everything if we don't get enough evidence. That starts from the God. That's what we take the position. So, being said that, it also implies, or you will get an idea of the topics that we discuss here. It includes from pseudoscience, from sex education, from psychology, that kind of topics and subjects related to that. Then we have this religion, then we have communism discussions and debates over that, and many other topics related to the social existence, anything and everything. So that's how it goes on. And most of the time, if you take a religious discussion or a debate, the number one position would go to the criticism of Islam, because, as you know, that is one of the biggest challenges that we are facing today on a global scale. So we give a little more attention and focus on to criticism of Islam, and even the kind of ex-Muslim activism that we see here is a part of or an offshoot of such active rationalist movements here. So it's all hand in hand. It's like a relay running race that you keep changing the person, but the whole movement is forward. That's how we see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine there's a lot of topics that we're taught about in religion that without religion we still need that information, just hopefully, more accurate information. Like you mentioned, sex education, for example.
Definitely.
Yeah, we need a replacement for what we're taught.
Yeah, even road sense, we have classes over here. Road sense, that the traffic rules and how we have to drive properly and all. Even that is being carried out here. So we have some resource persons from every field. So that's how we do it. Okay.
So basically skills and topics that would lead to the betterment of society.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds very interesting.
Okay, so I would like to have you in person as a invited person to present here with any of your expertise, the topics that is.
I don't consider myself an expert by any means, but I would love to attend someday.
Yeah, someday. If there happens to be a chance that you can be here, please let me know. We can make that possible also. Okay, and now. I have some other things related to the problems and the way that you are carrying out your ex-Muslim activism, and since how long that you are doing. Can you please give us a brief about that?
Sure. So it started about 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now. And at first it was, I was present in more text-based communities before YouTube, and then I appeared on an interview with a YouTuber, Friendly Ex-Muslim, and then past that it was TikTok. I made a few TikTok videos, and then I started making videos on YouTube because I faced a lot of resistance on TikTok and a lot of mass reporting and a lot of harassment, and I didn't think that 30 seconds was enough or 60 seconds was enough to make my point all the time. It would be more chance for people to misunderstand what I'm trying to say if I'm just doing jokes and trends and so on. So I graduated to making YouTube videos, and then I found that my some of the most rewarding conversation I have, or some of the most rewarding content, is in discussion with believers. So that has kind of been my brand for a long time now, where I do live streams and I talk with callers. I've been doing it a bit less now because of technical difficulties, and the momentum has shifted a little bit. But I learned so much from talking to people about what they believe. And I've received a lot of positive feedback from that, including from a lot of Muslims. So I've been very lucky in my journey so far, and I've come across a lot of people that surprised me and surprised themselves. So I try to foster a healthy environment for discussion on my live streams, while also not compromising the fact that I am still a critic of the religion, and I still don't necessarily like the religion or what it teaches, but I can still have a decent conversation with a believer. So I've been very blessed so far, and I hope to continue my journey, and I have a lot of different ideas that I want to explore with my channel. So we're only just beginning.
Okay, good luck to that, and I would like to see more of your content getting more attention and more followers. I think this is one of your followers here, Alan Anton. Do you have any words to him? He's a
Sure. Let me read the comment.
yeah.
Alan says, "It's an honor being a spectator here. Glad to know that all are not intense ones. Awake Muslims to ex-Muslims, because world is improvised against Islamic terrorism." Um, yeah, I also want to highlight, it's not just about the extreme and the terrorism. There's a lot that happens in day-to-day life, harm and good, that we as ex-Muslims and Muslims are concerned with and we experience every day. So I want to remind people, it's not just about the big events, it's not just about the terrorism, it's also about day-to-day life and how to navigate a religious life or an ex-religious life.
Okay, there's another question here. Do you guys think these mullah Maulavis are spoiling young Muslim future? Mullah
What do you
Maulavi,
think?
do you know that? Are you familiar with that
Are
word,
those
Mullah?
like religious speeches or like?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So, do you have anything to say to that?
I think they're definitely not helping them be on a healthy path. I wish that those kinds of I don't know, religious or spiritual education would be replaced by something a bit more useful and helpful for the people. I think they can plant a lot of bad ideas that will take them years to get over, if they ever get over them. But I hope that happens for everyone.
Yeah, and also I think you had made a very clear point in the beginning, and I think that can be reiterated here to make that as an answer to this question as well. That is, you asked your the people here to always seek or to try to listen to the opposing views. So as I said, the believers are asked not to do that. Okay, and the number one people who come and say this or ask these believers to do not to look for the opposing views are these mullahs and maulavis. So they always say, don't listen to the enemies of Islam. That's how they use the word enemies. So I have one point to make here, is that there's nothing called an enemy here. Okay, that concept itself is a barbaric thought process, a product of such a thought process. That's what I believe. You always have your opponent. Your opponent doesn't mean to be an enemy. If you are in a match, you are in a football or in a maybe in a badminton match or any such sporting activities also, you are having an opponent. And if you are making a democratic discourse also, if someone is opposing your views, that doesn't mean that he is an enemy. That is just an opposing view. You can make that yours, or you can make your view theirs. So only point that should be made is you have to make your part clear by giving enough evidence and to substantiate your point. And that's the only way by which you can make that opponent a friend. So it's not an enemy. Okay, there are only friends and other human beings. They can oppose your views, and we need to learn that. And especially this religion and among religion, Islam need to learn this or need to understand this point, because you know that Islam is anti-democratic. So there's no point in educating about this, but still they have to come forward and to accept this reality. So yeah, sorry for being a little bit longer on that.
Okay. I do want to say, I do want to add something to that.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I think that is black and white thinking, of course, that whoever doesn't agree with you or whoever is not on your side is black, or is the enemy, is the other side. I think it's not just Muslims who need to learn that this is not the case. I think it's also, to an extent, critics and ex-Muslims and non-Muslims as well, because sometimes once we leave religion, we might see the religious as our enemies. Instead, we should see them as, we're the same people, we're just on different parts of the spectrum of religiosity. Um, and people, instead of just thinking about whether they should adopt the other person's position or opinion or mentality, they should first seek to understand the other person's position and mentality before even assessing whether or not they should take it themselves. Because if you understand why they think the way they do, you'll have a lot more empathy, and you'll focus less on whether or not they're wrong or whether or not they're black or white. You'll focus
True.
on how they got to that, and maybe then you'll be able to, if you want to change their mind or if you want them to adopt your opinion, you'll be better positioned to do so if you understand why they have theirs.
Yeah. So I think then we can make it more clearer by saying that it's the ideology that is we are discussing. It's not the people. And at the same time, we are focusing on Islam, not the Muslims. So this is the same statement that I always make in my videos and in my public appearances, where especially in our country, whenever there is a problem that is being created here by the Islamic extremists, when that subject is taken as a topic of discussion here in a TV debate or in any other instances, what comes forward is that it's the problem of the Muslims. It's not the problem of the Islam. This is the statement that they always make. So being an ex-Muslim and being an activist in this area, the only point that I always emphasize is this, that is, it's not the Muslims who are the problem makers, it's the Islam. Muslims are the first victims of Islam. This is the statement that we always make. And I know it's not easy for them to take it, but still we are repeating that, and maybe in the future they will come to understand. So even when you said this, I thought of adding this to that statement. Hope it works that way. Okay. So yeah, one comment that I can see here is MBS ka fan. So we have a lot of fans for MBS coming up. So yeah, we will bring Asadin. I'm already in touch with him, not just for this, but we are supporting him in some other ways also. So maybe in near future, we will bring him. He's from Bangladesh, and he's really in need of some support from us. So maybe you can meet him over my channel, and very soon. Okay. So that's it. And have you seen this? Take beer, Ola, Uber.
Oh, I've seen Take Beer for a while, but I've never heard of Ola Uber.
Yeah, this is a statement that I have made. So maybe soon you will get a T-shirt where this will be printed. So whenever they come up with Takbir, Allahu Akbar, you can see this. Ola is an Uber alternative for India. That's Ola. Okay. And Uber, you know that Uber is an international company. So we have this Ola here. So that's how it is being used here. So some alternative uses for these words, take beer, Ola, Uber. So I just wanted to introduce this to you. Okay, hope that will help you in future. So,
if you do take beer, just drink responsibly. Be careful.
No drinking. So have you seen that news coming from Saudi regarding something related to this alcohol and other things? Do you have anything to add to that news?
Yeah, I think it was already happening for many years, just underground, in a sort of underground sort of way. And there are a lot of Saudis who travel to nearby countries to partake in these activities, and then they come back. So it makes more sense to just legalize it, and in that way it'd be more moderated, I suppose. And if they want to open up to the international world, and if they're trying to host all these soccer players and all these stars and everything, they will have to. They already are relaxing the rules for them, so might as well just make it a rule for everyone. So yeah, I think this was inevitable, but of course, a lot of Muslims see this as a sign of the end of times, because the Holy Land of Saudi Arabia
is now unholy.
Yeah.
Unholy land.
When you think about it, it's Saudi Arabia. It's Al Saud. They're people. It's a family.
Yeah.
It's a kingdom of humans. It didn't really hit me till I was a bit older that Mecca and Medina, they're just cities in some country called Al Saud's land, you know? So it, I don't know where I was going with this. I don't think there's going to be drinking in Mecca or in Medina. Maybe there already is underground, but I don't think that's ever going to be legal.
Okay.
But the rest of it is just a country that some family decided to start. So there's nothing holy about Saudi Arabia.
Just one moment. I was just drinking this water and I just got a little attention on your face mask. So at that moment, this niqab came to my mind. So I was just wondering if you had to drink water now, it will be impossible for you. So you have to turn around and drink water. If you want to take a break, you can break. But still, you just imagine, I have seen some, I have seen some images and videos where this niqabi women struggling to have a piece of cake or some noodles and all. They just lift it up and taking it inside. So when you were living in Saudi, have you seen that in person? How that works?
I have, and I tried to look away to give them as
Okay.
much privacy as possible, and it made me sad that when I see videos like these on the internet, you see a lot of people, of course, you know, calling her names or mocking her, and then you see a lot of people romanticizing what she's doing, saying, "MashaAllah, this is how women should behave. This is the ideal behavior," and both sides of it make me sad. I just feel for the woman, and I hope that women can eat freely without having to worry that they're arousing some man by eating. It's really restrictive on the women for no good reason.
Okay. Anyway, we are seeing some good things now from Islamic countries, especially some of the recent surveys. They have clearly portrayed how this Islam is going down. The numbers are getting reduced. But most of the time, as we know, people are closeted ex-Muslims mostly. So it's not easy to get the exact number. But if we get an exact number, maybe in the future, after they get a confidence to expose themselves, then one day the number will come out, and that will be a shocking moment for the whole of Islamic world. Do you think that way? Do you have any dream like that?
I think it's not just that there are a lot of closeted ex-Muslims, of course, but I think also there are a lot of people who don't realize that they don't necessarily believe, or they're ex-Muslim. They don't know about the label. I
Okay.
myself, years ago, I almost was an ex-Muslim. I just didn't know that was an option. I thought I would be a very terrible person if I admit to myself that I don't believe. It's because of the image that they're given of what an ex-Muslim is or looks like, or if they even hear about it at all. Like I said, many people don't know that you could leave Islam. The only stories they hear about people leaving Islam are the worst examples of fornicators and drug users and all sort of scare tactics, and smear tactics about those people. So I think that in exposing Muslims to what the average ex-Muslim looks like, or what the average non-religious Muslim looks like, they might be more open to the idea or the realization that they're not a Muslim anymore. And that is a big shift that we're going to see over the next years. And I'm trying to be part of that shift.
Great. So I'm looking forward. And I think it's almost completing our discussion point. So do you have anything to add on to our discussion where you have left?
Let me think. I mean, there's a couple ways I could go about this. I'm curious to ask you something. So we talked about this a little bit behind the scenes, but you are an
Okay.
ex-homeopath as well, right?
Oh, okay.
Um, I'm curious to know, did leaving Islam make you start questioning other things in your life, or was it questioning things in your life made you leave Islam?
Yeah, that's a very important question because in two ways this has helped me in as a person. That is, I left homeopathy first before leaving Islam, and that action gave me more confidence. Why I have to look for the very different aspects of Islam, to look for scientific validation, to look for the clear evidence and other things, the same things which I looked for in homeopathy, in deciding homeopathy as a pseudoscience. If I could do that, if I could do it in a very clear manner, and I was so much convinced that I could live that as a profession. So I was now, as a second step, I started questioning this belief system. And who led me to question Islam is not myself. It was these believers themselves. So that's something like I used to engage in debates regarding homeopathy. So at some point of time, some debates were happening during Ramzan, this fasting months or some other times. And during these debates, I'll just tell them, okay, please hang on. It is Maghrib time or it's the Isha time. I'll just pray and come back. So they used to ask me what kind of rationalist he is. He is criticizing his homeopathy and he is going for prayer. So he's a false rationalist. That's the name that they were calling me. So even in the beginning, I used to say homeopathy is part of my profession, so I have to be clear about that. I have to look for scientific evidence. This is evidence-based medicine. I used to defend myself. But later on, this started sticking onto me that if I can look for the science and such validations for homeopathy, why shouldn't I do the same with the belief system? And that's the moment when I started looking for that. And many other things happened along with this. Like one of the major events that was associated was the Easter Day bombing that happened in Sri Lanka. So that bombing event by this ISIS, that made me a kind of epiphany, that a moment where some of the people were telling that ISIS, those people are the real Muslims. The Muslims that we engage here in our country, they are just namesake Muslims. They don't know anything about Islam. So being an ardent believer and so much sticking on to the prayers and other things, and still they are calling me a namesake Muslim, I was totally taken aback. So I decided to learn about this ISIS, and I realized that, okay, what he said was right. ISIS is the real Muslim. They are the real Islam followers. So if I become a real Islamic follower, then I could be an ISIS man. So then the only choice in front of me was just two. Either I have to become an ISIS member or any extremist, or I have to leave Islam. I chose the second one because I couldn't find a reason to blow myself up like in a suicide bombing attempt. So that's not the way. So this is the kind of thought process that I traveled throughout my this journey towards rationalism, or this scientific temper that I used. So this is the same thought process that I'm trying to educate the people also, so that they can do the same with their own ideals and their thought process, and they can come out of the ideological the slavery that they are carrying with them. Yeah. Hope that clears.
Yeah, thank you for that answer.
Yeah, so I think we don't have much questions here. We have already taken a few. Hijab, this is a great idea. We have some statements here. We can just go through that. This is a great idea. Ex-Muslim activists, men and women, should wear hijab and do social media activities by way to hide identity. Okay, so that point regarding this niqab was something that was on the point. Okay.
Honestly, I think it's a great idea if the next female ex-Muslim activist, if she is, worried about her safety, she could wear a hijab and a mask or a niqab or something like that.
Yeah, I'm literally, I wanted to ask you this because the moment I messaged you, I also messaged Infidel Noodle, but I haven't received a response from her. But after this, if you could talk to her and if we could bring her online, then that will be much more useful for the audience here, because I have brought many ex-Muslim men on this this live stream, but it's very hard to get females here, the women. So that's one area we have to focus. So if that can be made possible, that will be a good thing to happen. So please help me with that, our audience also. Okay.
I will pass on the message and hopefully she will reach out to you.
Oh yeah, great. So then we have some Okay, so I'll do one thing. I'll just okay, give a leave to you so that I can just complete this session, and we will catch up later with some other session also. So thank you so much for joining with us, with our esteemed audience here. So that was an interesting conversation that we had with you. So thank you so much for your appearance and your contributions, and the way that the talks and the programs that you do on your YouTube channel and other social media platforms. Especially, I'm a follower of your Instagram. I always look at that post that you make. So best wishes with your activities and your future programs. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate you having me here. And this opportunity, I think, is a great one, because I have followers who are from India, and they tell me that they need better representation than what they've seen already. And I hope that by us talking, I've connected them to that better representation. So hopefully they can find your channel that way. So I appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah, in fact, I had a conversation with Sahil, then Adam Seeker and other people. Adam Seeker is from other country, but still we had some conversation. So we will be in touch, and we will let you know, so that we can have a bigger event where you all can come together and share our thoughts. Hope that will work. Yeah. So next January 9th is the Ex-Muslim Day for Indians. That's what we are planning. So I'm inviting you right away, because please take this date booked for us. Okay, January 9th. That's the day. So we'll see. We'll meet again. Once again.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay. Bye. Okay, so that was an interesting discussion with Apostate Aladdin. And okay, now I'll switch on to my native language, that is Malayalam. So എല്ലാവർക്കും കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ മനസ്സിലായി എന്ന് വിചാരിക്കുന്നു. എക്സ്-മുസ്ലിംസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന വിഭാഗം ആളുകൾ ലോകത്ത് എമ്പാടും വളർന്നുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നു, അത് എണ്ണത്തിൽ വർദ്ധിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നു എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഒരു പുതുമയുള്ള കാര്യമല്ല എന്ന് നിങ്ങൾക്കറിയാം. നമ്മൾ കഴിഞ്ഞ കുറേ ഓൾമോസ്റ്റ് വർഷങ്ങളായിട്ട് തന്നെ അത് പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നു എന്ന് പറയുന്നതായിരിക്കും ശരി. അപ്പോൾ അതിൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് പരിചയമില്ലാത്ത ആളുകൾ, ഫേമസ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ആളുകളെ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് അറിയാമായിരിക്കും. പക്ഷെ എന്നാലും ഇനിയും കൂടുതൽ കൂടുതൽ പുറത്തേക്ക് വന്നുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്ന ആളുകളെ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് പരിചയപ്പെടുത്തുക എന്ന ഒരു ഉദ്ദേശം. പിന്നെ ഇതൊരു ഇന്ത്യയിൽ മാത്രം നടക്കുന്ന ഒരു കാര്യമല്ല എന്നും, അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ഇത് പറയുന്നത് ഈ സംഖ്യയെ പേടിച്ച് പറയാതിരിക്കുക എന്നൊക്കെ പറയുന്നത് തികച്ചും അസംബന്ധമാണ് എന്നുള്ള കാര്യവും നിങ്ങളെന്ന് ബോധ്യപ്പെടുത്തുക എന്ന് തന്നെയാണ് ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ഏതായാലും ഇന്ന് വന്ന ആൾക്ക് വളരെ കാര്യമായിട്ടുള്ള ത്രെട്ടും ഒക്കെ ഉള്ളതുകൊണ്ട് കൂടുതൽ ഐഡൻറ്റിറ്റി വെളിവാകുന്ന കാര്യങ്ങളൊന്നും നമുക്ക് പറയാൻ കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടില്ല. പക്ഷേ അതൊക്കെ പറയാൻ കഴിയുന്ന ചില സൗദി പൗരന്മാരെ ഞാൻ തേടി പിടിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ അവരിൽ ഒരാളെ അധികം വൈകാതെ കിട്ടിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഇവിടെ നമുക്കിട്ട് ഒന്ന് പരിശോധിക്കാം അവരുടെ വ്യൂസ് ആൻഡ് അതർ തിങ്സ്. ഓക്കെ, സോ ചാനൽ, ഈ പ്രോഗ്രാം എല്ലാവർക്കും ഇഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടു എന്ന് വിചാരിക്കുന്നു. സോ ഏതെങ്കിലും വിധേനയൊക്കെ ഇതിനെ സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യണമെന്ന് ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്ന ആളുകൾ ഇതിൻ്റെ ഡിസ്ക്രിപ്ഷനിൽ ചെക്ക് ചെയ്യുക. നമ്മളെ ചാനലിൽ സബ്സ്ക്രൈബ്, ലൈക്ക്, ഷെയർ ദ വീഡിയോ. സോ എല്ലാ രീതിയിലും ഇതിനെ സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യണമെന്ന് ഞാൻ അഭ്യർത്ഥിക്കുകയാണ്, ഇതിനുവേണ്ടി നിലകൊള്ളാൻ വേണ്ടി. പിന്നെ ഒരു ചെറിയൊരു റിക്വസ്റ്റും കൂടി ഞാൻ നടത്തുകയാണ്. ഇന്നിപ്പോൾ ഇത് ചെയ്യുന്ന പ്ലാറ്റ്ഫോം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് സ്ട്രീം യാർഡ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു പ്ലാറ്റ്ഫോമാണ്. സോ ഇത് കുറച്ച് കോസ്റ്റ്ലി ആയതുകൊണ്ട് ഇതധികം എടുത്ത് അങ്ങനെ ഉപയോഗിച്ചിട്ടില്ല. പക്ഷേ ഞാനിതൊരു 1 year സബ്സ്ക്രിപ്ഷൻ എടുക്കാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് ആലോചിക്കുകയാണ്. സോ ക്ലോസ് ടു 20,000 റുപ്പീസാണ് വരിക ഈ ഒരു സംഗതിക്ക്. സോ അതിലേക്ക് അത് പർച്ചേസ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു 1 year ഒരു പർച്ചേസിലേക്ക് കോൺട്രിബ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്ന ആളുകൾ അതൊന്ന് മെൻഷൻ ചെയ്തിട്ട് ഒന്ന് മെസ്സേജ് ചെയ്യുകയോ അതല്ലെങ്കിൽ നേരിട്ട് കോൺട്രിബ്യൂഷൻസ് അയക്കുകയോ ചെയ്തു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നമുക്കത് ഫ്രൂട്ട്ഫുൾ ആക്കാം. സോ ഇതുപോലുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങൾക്ക് നമ്മൾ മടിച്ച് നിൽക്കേണ്ട. ഈ സൗകര്യങ്ങളുണ്ടായിട്ട് അത് ഉപയോഗിക്കാൻ പറ്റാത്തതിൻ്റെ പേരിൽ ഒരു കാര്യം ചെയ്യാതിരിക്കരുത് എന്ന പോളിസി ഉള്ളതുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഇങ്ങനെ തന്നെ പറയുന്നത്. കുറച്ച് ആളുകൾ ഓൾറെഡി നമുക്കതിനെ ഹെൽപ്പ് ചെയ്യാമെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്. കൂടുതൽ ആളുകൾ മുന്നോട്ട് വരികയാണെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ബേർഡൻ നമുക്ക് ഷെയർ ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും. അപ്പോൾ അത് ഒന്ന് ഇവിടെ ഉണർത്തിക്കുകയാണ്. പറ്റുന്ന ആളുകൾ അതൊന്ന് ചെയ്ത് ഇത് നമുക്ക് പെട്ടെന്ന് തന്നെ സാധിച്ചെടുക്കാൻ പറ്റുമെന്ന് വിചാരിക്കുന്നു. അപ്പോൾ അതൊന്ന് പറയുകയാണ്. എല്ലാ രീതിയിലും നിങ്ങളെ ഈ ഒരു കാര്യത്തിൽ ജോയിൻ ചെയ്തതിന്, ഇന്നത്തെ സെഷനിൽ ജോയിൻ ചെയ്തതിന് എല്ലാവർക്കും നന്ദി അറിയിക്കുന്നു. പിന്നെ അതുകൂടാതെ ഇന്ന് നമുക്ക് എല്ലാ ചോദ്യങ്ങൾ ചോദിച്ച് ഈ ചർച്ച ലൈവാക്കിയ ആളുകൾക്ക് പ്രത്യേക ഒരു നന്ദിയുണ്ട്. നമ്മളുടെ അഡ്മിൻസ് കൂടുതൽ ഞാൻ എടുത്ത് പറയുന്നില്ല. അപ്പോൾ എന്തായാലും അടുത്ത തവണ ഇത് നമ്മൾ ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയത്ത് ഒരു ബാക്ക് എൻഡിൽ ഒരു അഡ്മിൻ ഈ കമൻസും കൂടി മോഡറേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു സംഗതി ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ കുറച്ചുകൂടി എളുപ്പമാണെന്ന് എനിക്ക് തോന്നി. സോ നെക്സ്റ്റ് ടൈം അത് നമുക്ക് അങ്ങനെ പ്ലാൻ ചെയ്യാം. ഇന്നിപ്പോൾ നമ്മുടെ ഫോക്കസ് ചിലപ്പോൾ മാറിപ്പോകുന്നു പേടിച്ചിട്ട് ഞാൻ കൂടുതൽ വായിക്കാൻ നിന്നിട്ടില്ല. അപ്പോൾ അതുകൊണ്ട് നമുക്കതൊന്ന് അടുത്ത തവണ നമുക്ക് കൂടുതൽ ഭംഗിയാക്കാമെന്ന് വിചാരിക്കുന്നു. സോ ഞാനത് നീട്ടുന്നില്ല. കൂടുതൽ നീണ്ടുപോയ ആ വീഡിയോ ആളുകൾ കാണില്ല എന്നൊരു പ്രശ്നമുണ്ട്. സോ ഐ എം ജസ്റ്റ് വൈൻഡിങ് ഇറ്റ് അപ്പ് ഹിയർ. സോ നമുക്ക് അടുത്ത വീഡിയോയിൽ നമുക്ക് വീണ്ടും കാണാം. അതുവരേക്കും എല്ലാവർക്കും നന്ദി, നമസ്കാരം. 1 സെക്കൻഡ്, സാധനം എടുത്ത് വെക്കട്ടെ എന്നിട്ടല്ലേ പറയാൻ പറ്റൂ. ഓക്കെ, അപ്പോൾ എല്ലാവർക്കും നന്ദി, നമസ്കാരം, ഗുഡ് നൈറ്റ്.